Okay, good luck.
So your antibodies are probably better at that point than the vaccination.
Nick Carl is an experienced bio...
Yoku.
I think I'm just gonna watch this on full screen. I'm too triggered to play this in the background now. Okay. Your antibodies are probably better than the vaccine, but what is this an argument for? You have to get sick to have the antibodies if you don't get vaccinated. I mean, would you rather get sick than just get vaccinated? I don't know what the point of this is. This statement doesn't mean anything.
Than the vaccination.
Nick Carl is an experienced biochemist at Pfizer with a history of working in the pharmaceutical industry. Nick admits to our undercover journalist that those who've had COVID have stronger immunity than those who've...
That's not, no one is admitting that. Everybody said that the entire time. I'm pretty sure most of the research that's come out has shown that having the actual exposure to the virus gives you more immunity than just the vaccination. But like, I'm pretty sure there's also, if you had exposure to the virus and some months have passed and then you get vaccinated, you have even more immunity. Like just because you get more immunity by getting the actual infection doesn't mean you shouldn't get vaxxed. One, if you've been infected, and two, definitely if you haven't been infected. Like the point is that the mainstream says that you still need to get vaxxed even if you had it for months. I mean, yeah, you still should get vaxxed. There's literally no reason not to. It still helps, but can't you still get vaccinated and then get exposure when you get it? Sure, it's possible, but...
received the Pfizer COVID vaccine.
When somebody is naturally immune, like they got COVID, they probably have better, like not better, but more antibodies against the virus. Because what the vaccine is like I said, that protein that's just on the outside. So it's just one antibody against one specific part of the virus. When you actually get the virus, you're going to start producing antibodies against like multiple pieces of virus. And not only just like that outside portion, like the inside portion, the actual virus. So your antibodies are probably better at that point than the vaccination.
But don't take his word for it.
This isn't breaking, or this isn't like an expose. Like, everybody knows this. I don't understand what this is supposed to be exposing.
Pfizer scientists echo the same sentiment.
So I mean, well protected?
Yeah.
Like as much as the vaccine?
Probably more.
How so? Like how much more?
You're protected most likely for longer, since it was a natural response.
We're like bred and taught to be like vaccine is safer than actually getting COVID. You cannot like talk about this.
Well, wait, but that's probably true. You'd probably rather get vaccinated than have the coronavirus, right? What is the implication here? You'd rather get the virus than just get vaccinated, or?
Public, if you have antibodies built up, like you should be able to prove that you have those built up.
I mean, I still feel
you can get a blood test for antibodies. It was one of the ways that early on in the pandemic, if you were infected, you can actually go and get a blood test that shows you've had a prior infection.
Like I work for like an evil corporation. They're trying to keep track of everyone that's been vaccinated versus the census of how many people are actually reported. Basically, our organization is run on COVID money now. You don't talk about anything that can possibly implicate you, or like...
I don't know what any of these sentences mean. I don't know why I'm getting like cut, sentence, cut, sentence, cut. They're all about different topics. I don't know what I'm supposed to take away from any of this.
Big pharma. Like, even if you shut the door to the office, it's kind of like, who's listening?
I specifically have like, oh God, I signed the NDAs against this.
The government doesn't want to show that the darn vaccine is full of shit.
There needs to be a registry of the people who aren't vaccinated. That's sounding very dirty. I'm gonna go door to door and stab everyone. Oh, it's just your booster shot.
Don't get vaccinated.
I didn't tell you no.
She didn't want to take it because of her religious beliefs. She was coerced into taking it.
They are not reported because they want to shove it under the mat.
Oh God, I signed the NDAs against this. So your antibodies are probably better at that point than the vaccination.
You're not wearing a wire, right?
Gee,
Our next
imagine
installment in
just
the
like
series
look at the presentation. Imagine watching something like this and you're like, this is the truth. Now I'm finally getting that raw, unfiltered truth. I'm finally figuring out what's going on in the world, doing my own research, just like I said I would. Like, Jesus Christ.
I'm wearing a wire, right?
Our next installment in the series exposing Big Pharma will feature multiple releases inside one of the nation's largest COVID vaccine manufacturers, Pfizer. The series features not one, not two, but three scientists within Pfizer talking to one of our undercover journalists, making stunning admissions about the COVID vaccine and the culture inside of Pfizer.
Like, we're like bred and taught to be like vaccine is safer than actually getting COVID. And that's like,
Because I'm pretty sure for almost everybody that's true.
like, honestly, we have to do so many seminars on this. Like, you have no idea. Like, we have to like sit there for hours and hours and listen to like be like, you cannot like talk about this like it's not in public. You know, logically though, like if you have antibodies built up, like you should be able to prove that you have those built up. Like, and just be like, I don't know, maybe potentially that doesn't seem that crazy.
I had COVID and I have monster immunity after 8 months, so I just got checked last month for antibodies.
I mean, that's no worries. Same thing with my brother.
So should I get the vaccine?
Wait,
Till when?
if your immunity starts to wane, then get vaccinated.
So I'm well protected?
Yeah,
Like as much as the vaccine?
probably more.
Probably, or yeah.
Also, like how much?
None of this is secret information. I don't understand. This is like.
I mean, so when we came out with, let's see.
The question was, should people who got COVID be able to opt out of the vaccine? I feel like that wouldn't be the worst idea if it was possible. I don't know what the system I guess you would just get a blood test, and that would be like your proof of not needing to get vaccinated. I don't think that's like the worst thing possible. Getting vaccinated though still confers even more immunity. I don't know how to think about that. I don't think that would be like the worst thing possible though, but I don't know.
So right now we're
Destiny, to be fair, the narrative right now is people that got COVID should still be getting vaccinated, which these guys are advising against. That is not what these guys are advising. They're advising that the vaccine is fake, that the virus is fake, that the vaccine is killing people, that the FDA is lying about things. That's what's being alleged. If in terms of just having a conversation about like, oh, you know, if you've already been infected, should you be required to get the vaccine since infection is also conferring immunity? Like, I don't know. I think there's probably a legitimate conversation to be had there, right? But yeah. Destiny, shouldn't scientists have more definitive answers? Why do they sound so wishy-washy, their responses? Because, like, science in a petri dish is easy, but public policy is a lot more difficult. Like, should somebody get vaccinated is a more complicated question. Should you mandate vaccines is a more complicated question. Like, these are things we have to weigh risk factors against potential benefits in, like, different scenarios. Like, so I wouldn't expect, these guys aren't, like, policymakers. And it sounds like they're either on, like, a sting date or something, and they're not, I don't think these guys are trying to give, like, exact answers. Like, so it's probably just, yeah.
We're seeing an increase in the Delta variant, mostly not because of the variant, because of their antibodies are waning. So they're still protected, but not at that 95%.
I could be wrong, but I've never heard that waning antibodies is a reason why immunity wanes. In any infection, you're going to lose antibodies over time. That doesn't mean you still aren't protected. The way that I'm pretty sure you see if people are still protected or not is by doing like longitudinal, I think they'd be considered longitudinal tests, where you see who's vaccinated, you track them for like a year or two, and then you see who's getting infected. I think that's the only way to really tell. You can't just measure the antibodies to find out.
Efficacy, it's more like 70%. So you're protected most likely for longer, since it was a natural response. So basically, they're trying to keep track of everyone that's been vaccinated versus the census of how many people are actually reported. So, I mean, they're trying to get their numbers, but still, you shouldn't have to show anything, which is basically, in my opinion, a violation of HIPAA. No one has the right to ask you if you've been vaccinated, or so.
I've never heard that that's a violation of HIPAA. Asking a question, I don't think it's I think HIPAA violations are when you're like pulling medical data without consent or sharing medical data or whatever without consent. I don't think just making that request is a violation of HIPAA. But I don't know if this guy has any idea what the fuck HIPAA is or anything about it.
It's an invasion of privacy. I don't agree with it. So.
Nick's take on these social mandates would seem to run contrary to his sentiment on antibody immunity. This isn't the first time we've heard this sentiment from a scientist with one of these companies.
How do we get the unvaccinated vaccinated?
I feel like what they're doing, like, for instance, like the city needs like vax cards and everything. It's just like about making it so inconvenient for like unvaccinated people to the point where they're just like, it, okay.
Hey, just real quick, guys. If you're gonna go on a date with somebody and you're gonna talk, don't talk with your mouth full. Why would you do this? Don't do this. Jesus.
What do you mean?
Like, if you are restricting people that are unvaccinated from doing anything, and then like vaccinated people are allowed to do anything they want, eventually they're just going to be like, let me just get vaccinated.
I mean, you have multiple companies that were basically given a crap ton of money to produce vaccines, and they're pushing them.
So what happens to the monoclonal antibody treatments?
Pushed to the side.
Why?
Money.
Wait, what do they mean by push to the side? I thought the monoclonal antibody treatment is still, isn't that still EUA under the FDA? I don't understand. They're still there. That's still a thing.
It's disgusting. You're not wearing a wire, right?
You want to check?
I mean, I still feel like I work for like an evil corporation because it comes down to profits in the end. And I mean, I'm there to help people, not to make millions and millions of dollars. So I mean, that's the moral dilemma.
Billions and billions?
I'm trying to be nice.
No, yes, I hear you. I do. I mean, I'll still give you a hard time about it.
Basically, our organization is run on COVID money now.
How so?
Like, it netted like over 15 billion last year.
Chris Croce is a senior associate scientist with Pfizer. He goes on to explain a test that is currently taking place at Pfizer, not to determine the effectiveness, but to see if it is leading to heart attacks.
I'm glad you didn't get any myocarditis.
Yeah.
Because that's a concern, right?
Yeah. More so for younger people.
Why?
That's what we're looking into right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so, yeah, we just sent like 3,000 patients samples to get tested for like elevated troponin levels.
Yeah.
To see if it's vaccine based or so.
What's it look like?
I don't know. We just sent that over this past week,
Right.
and the last batch will be sent over next week. All external testing. We'll see. Hopefully it's good.
Well,
Because I mean, if not, then my opinion, that might pull something from the market.
If the scientists
Who
believe
is this guy? It wouldn't pull anything in the market. Well, I guess if it was really bad, it would. But I think generally, when they talk about like there's a risk for young people, it's not that like I don't think it's that young people are especially at risk. It's that you're always weighing the risk versus the reward. And if the risk of a young person of having a serious infection with the coronavirus is very, 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 very low, then even if the risk of myocarditis is very, 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 very low, it just the cost benefit isn't there for them to get the vaccine. It's not like you'd be like, oh, it's slightly more risky to get the vaccine versus just getting risking an infection as a younger person. Therefore, we're gonna pull it for everybody in society, right?
that the antibody works more effectively than the vaccines, it begs the question, what's with all the federal...
It doesn't beg any question. It raises the question. This is nitpicky, sorry, but...
That the antibody works more effectively than the vaccines, it begs the question, what's with all the federal mandates, regardless of what the data says?
There's ears and eyes everywhere.
What do you mean?
At Pfizer, like in the building. So it's kind of just like you don't talk about anything that can possibly implicate you or like big pharma. Like even if you shut the door to the office, it's kind of like who's listening.
These expressed views run contrary to the current public policy affecting millions of people. We have hidden camera footage of executives at Pfizer.
It's an argument. Code yellow.
Code yellow, I don't know what that means.
Code yellow.
I don't even think this is a good YouTube video. Or like, it won't even make it for my channel. Okay.